Hello, people. This is Lapse of Apathy. I'm coming to you today to talk to you about some video that I saw by Joy Camp on RT. You know what? I watch RT every now and again, and it has a lot of news that I like. There's a lot of progressive news, real progressive news, and a lot of news pertaining to the Middle East and how the United States basically fucks everything up because it's the world police. Um, but anyway, Joy Camp, as much as every other real progressive out there seem to have in mind that there is a capitalist agenda to take all of the resources in the land and then pillage it beyond belief. Pillage it to a point where the environment is no longer useful. Now, of course, there's a lot of libertarians that don't agree with the um, quote pseudoscience global warming. Now, obviously, I don't have enough information whether to say there is global warming or there is not global warming. I'm not going to side with either side. But the thing is that Joy Camp pointed out that the only thing that corporations care about and the only thing that they're legally obligated to is to make more money for the economy. He's absolutely right, but he's not right about something. He's not right in the assumption that corporations are a product of free market capitalism. Because all corporations are businesses that have a political monopoly on the means of production, just like Karl Marx said. Now, here's what he gets here is what he gets it wrong. Corporations are not a product of the free market. Marx was right when he said that these businesses have a monopoly on production. But Karl Marx and the progressives were wrong by understanding that corporations somehow come from the free market. See, in a free market system, we wouldn't have as much regulations on smaller businesses, plus big business wouldn't have any regulations at all. So what that means is that small business wouldn't have any regulations, big business wouldn't have any regulations, and there wouldn't be anything called a corporation. You know, a corporation is a legally binding entity to make money as much as possible to grow the economy's GDP. And as Joe Camp said, we're living in a society where all these corporations are doing is accumulating more wealth by destroying more natural resources. And additionally, these corporations own a oligopoly. An oligopoly is a select few companies that have a monopoly over a market. Now the thing is that in a free market, a monopoly would be little to almost impossible. A free market monopoly, if there was a monopoly that took over, the monopoly would have to keep its prices so low, keep its customers so happy, and keep the market, meaning everybody buying that good, so happy. Um, and this economy that we have now, which is a corporatocracy, by the way, this corporatocracy has an oligopoly of businesses that work with each other to gain the most profit to get the most GDP growth. Now the thing is that they have their monopoly through political coercion. This political coercion is provided by the lobbyists that talk to the governments in power and say, we will grow your GDP by this much if you make it so that these smaller businesses cannot compete with us. The thing is that this is how America works. This is how American corporatocracy works. The big businesses are in bed with the government. The government and the corporations are exactly one and the same. The entire plot is to gather as much resources as possible for these giant corporations that are all working with each other to gain a political monopoly, to raise the prices throughout the roof. Because if these corporations did not have legal standing, and if they were not, if they were held legally responsible for the losses that they had, instead of having them be bailed out every single time that they fail, what would happen is that these big giant businesses would go away. They would disappear, and the market would go up and pick up the slack and create a market of several different businesses, ramping up innovation, ramping up the amount of choices that everyone has, ramping up the individual liberties that people have choosing their products. Instead of choosing Coke versus Pepsi, they would have 72,000 different choices of soda. Now, of course, this is, this is sort of being absurdist right now. But the choices of soda, the numerous amounts of soda that could come out, would only come out, per se, the need of that soda. Per se, the market's wanting of a different flavor of soda, a different brand of soda that is different from what we have now. Coke products versus Pepsi products. That's a very easy understanding of what I mean by this. But look at it this way. Look at the ISPs. The ISPs own most of the internet infrastructure. If you're looking at every single ISP out there, there's about 14 or 15 different ISPs globally. Some of these ISPs are subsidiaries of bigger ISPs, and they're shell companies. These corporations own all the infrastructure, yet because of regulations on smaller businesses, nobody can go out and start a market as an ISP to lower the prices of our internet bills. Now, of course, you look at Korea, maybe they have cheaper internet over there because they socialized it. Maybe that would work in Korea. But the thing is that the people in America work with the corporations. They don't give a shit about you, and they don't give a shit about the market. They want to destroy their competition. We do not have a capitalist society here. Again, corporations would not exist. You would have to take 100% risk in starting a business, and you wouldn't be able to start a business and then take out money and then get out, because the people working for you would easily see that, and they'd point it out, and they'd sue you. But because we have corporations, you're allowed to do that because you're legally binded to. You're legally allowed to. Once you see the business failing and you're the CEO of the business, you're going to take out most of the money and then bail. Keynesian economics is another problem. Keynesian economics is running on the... Keynesian economics is basically a ever-depleting amount of goods for an ever-increasing amount of services. This is called inflation. The services meaning money, currency. Currency gets printed every now and again. Every single year there's about a 3% inflation rate. Every transaction that people make on a credit card goes to debt. All of this money that you have now is debt. So they gotta print more and lower interest for the big banks to borrow from in order to keep up with their debts. And that lowers the value of the dollar and therefore increases the amount of prices on certain goods. Primarily goods that are very important to the market, very important to people, like food and shelter and all of these necessities that people have. Remember, progressives, I need to tell you this. And what I do need to tell you is that our system is not capitalism. It is corporatism. And you do not want a centralized economy, because you'll get exactly the same thing that we have now. This is what they do. They say, because of capitalism, this is what we have, so we have to scale back, and we have to start centralizing things. Well, if you centralize things, you're just going to have the same exact thing that we have now, except you're going to have less choices, and you're going to have even more of a monopoly. You don't think the people in power, the people in government, will raise the prices for you to get your goods? Hell yeah, they will. Because government, just like any other government before us, is a monstrosity. It doesn't care about you. It only cares about lining its own pockets. Just remember that. Government and corporations are the same thing. That's it. That's all you have to remember. Government and corporations are the same thing. What do you do with capitalism? Well, capitalism, you decentralize everything. Anarcho-capitalism would mean no regulations, would mean no taxation, would mean basically no coercion across the board. Now that sounds kind of weird. That sounds ridiculous. That sounds like, well, global warming will go off out of the roof now, because at least right now we have tiny bit of giant corporations. Well, the thing is that I said this before. Corporations, because of their legal dependency, because the way that they cannot be bankrupt, they have enough currency, they have enough money to go out and buy more land and destroy the areas of which they have. Decentralization and anarcho-capitalists, think of the current income that you make. If you make probably about $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, how much land could you really buy? Not much. You'd be able to buy a little house or something like that, whatever. A plot of land, 16, 20 acres. I'm not sure of the measurements of that. But you would be responsible for your own land. And if you're going to pillage your own land, you're going to also have to make sure that it yields the certain income that you need next year to survive, to live. Or if you're going to live on somebody else's land, you're just going to live off of somebody else's land, and they're going to buy for your labor. Now, minimum wage, another thing. We cut minimum wage. We say there is no minimum wage. What's going to happen? Is everyone going to pay their workers nothing? Well, no. Why not? Because what if you went into the market and you said, okay, I need a job. And somebody said, well, we're going to pay you nothing. What are you going to say? No, I'm not going to get paid nothing. So you go off to the next worker and you say, I don't want to get paid nothing, I want to be paid something. That person goes off and pays you whatever he thinks your labor is worth. That is called market price value, not minimum wage. Minimum wage is set up by a monopoly of power, the government. If you go out and you get the market wage of what you are worth as a programmer, you make $72,000, maybe $80,000, $100,000 a year, depending on what type of program that you are programming. But if you're a burger flipper, you're only getting $9 an hour, and they're increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour. You might be thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. I want to be a burger flipper and make $15 an hour. But when you look at economics and when you look at what a worker, what an owner of a business wants for his or her own business, they're going to go with the cheapest thing. So they're either going to hire fewer people on for that $15 an hour. A few people might make $15 an hour, or he might find an alternative. He might go up to somebody and say, build me a bunch of robots that will flip the burgers for me and everything else like that. The upkeep on them will cost less than paying somebody full-time to flip burgers, or half-time to flip burgers. This is the economy. This is not the bullshit that you've been fed in college or whatever. The bullshit that they're shoveling down your throat. A free market is the best market. A free market is actually closest to what real socialists, what real progressives want. A better world for everyone. Lee Camp, just please, you're an awesome guy. You're an awesome comedian. Please look up economics professors. Please look up Austrian economics versus Keynesian economics. Look up some sort of debate between Milton Friedman or Thomas Sowell versus John Maynard Keynes or some Keynesian economist. Look up videos on YouTube of how Keynesian economics works or how it fails, and look up videos on how Austrian economics works or how it fails. And I'll guarantee you, after understanding the ins and outs of it, you'll become a libertarian. But of course, it's not the labels that matter. It's not that matters. What matters is that I had the common interest of any other progressive out there, as I used to be a progressive, as I used to be a socialist even. But I understand more of the big picture, more of how corporations and governments are working together to centralize things and make a monopoly that has the power to raise the prices, to print money, and devalue your dollar year by year. Look that up, please. Lee Camp and any other progressive out there. They are using you. They are using you for your own, to meet their ends. If you're talking to a conservative out there, if a conservative is viewing my video, then you understand fully that the government doesn't care about you, but you will also have to understand that corporatism doesn't care about you either, and it is not the free market. If you're a liberal, if you're a progressive, a real progressive that doesn't believe in that social justice warrior bullshit, you have to go out and study economics, because government and corporation are the same exact thing. There is no difference. Decentralization is the closest to idealized socialism, and it is, of course, for the conservatives, the closest thing, indeed it is, capitalism. Regulations need to be off the books, because if they can't regulate the giant corporations that bumfuck you every single day, then they can't regulate the smaller businesses that want to drive down the price and drive up the economic value of the United States dollar. This has been Lapse of Apathy. I hope you look up Austrian economics. And I hope progressives and conservatives get together and understand the big picture.